Today, instead of a sermon, all I'm going to do is talk from the heart and read from the scriptures. So, this is kind of a smorgasbord of thoughts and things. So for those of you listening on tape, don't mind me if I kind of meander a little bit. Or CD, if that's what you're listening to. Since tape is now obsolete, right?
Or MP3 players.
Okay, so I'm a little old. A little old. The first thing I wanted to share this morning was a rather interesting testimony that was given to me yesterday by one of my coworkers, which kind of acted as a see, it can happen. See, you're not the only one that's had something similar to this happen. See, it's possible type thing. I'll try to tell the story as best I can and just the highlights of it, because obviously I cannot tell it as well as the person who told it to me. But basically, you know what happens when you get to talking about to a Christian about their church? They inevitably start talking about what God's been doing, or what's happening, or how things happened, or whatnot. And so you can just check it off. One of my coworkers belongs to a church not too far from here, down in Tacoma, and we were talking about the production they're going to be doing called Heaven and Hell, which is a pageant play, dealing with making right choices and the consequences thereof if you don't. And it's apparently been a play that every year they put on, and every year they have souls saved at the altar call after the play's over. Their largest soul-saving number last year occurred on Halloween, because people going by, seeing people going into a building, thought, okay, that's interesting, and saw some of the folks that are costumed to go into the pageant, and thought, oh, that's interesting, maybe something's happening here, and they just walked in on the play and came in as, backdoor guests, so to speak, because there was a fee to get into the play, and they just figured it was some Halloween open housey thing, and they ended up walking into the middle of this play, which is not one of the standard ones. It's been modified by the pastor's wife, who helps write some of the scripts, I guess, and whatnot. And my coworker is part production manager for this thing, and so she's very fired up about it. She's kind of all about this thing. And well, that got us talking about. I said, okay, so what church and so forth. And of course, she gave me the name, and I've already forgot it. My fault. But I could find it. It's down there in the northern part of Tacoma. But she started talking about her church, and I said, okay, so just, pastor, what's he like, where from, how, the basic questions we always ask. She got all fired up. She started talking about how, and I'm ordering her thoughts, she gave them in a different order than I am, how they started as a group of people in an apartment, and there were only like 15 or so of them, some small number of them, and they felt to step out and try to see if they could go get a building because their house was full, another place was full. And it's so textbook God. I just thought about her testimony as being textbook God. After a while, you hear these testimonies so many times in so many ways that you just have to go, if this isn't how God does things, it's just kind of, his M.O. of things. So here's a little group, it's hanging out, it's having a wonderful time, you got a leader that's fired up, and what ends up happening is a building becomes available, a small building, and they felt like maybe they should go rent it, but they didn't have any money. So one fella took from his retirement fund and pulled out the $800 for the first month's rent on this building. He felt to do it, and he did it. And they all packed themselves up, went to the little building, packed themselves in. And from there, they grew. They never did end up going back to their former residence. And that was cool, okay, that's cool. So somebody took a bold step, and people came in the building, and it grew, and it got enough to stick around every month. She said, with, prayer and, the whole 9 yards, you got to go through. It's not just like, hey, and then it just happened, And I thought, oh, that's cool, Then she said this. She said, honey, you're going to love this one. She said, their pastor kept looking at a Safeway store that was up there, and kept walking into the Safeway store going, this would be a great place to have a church. This would be a great place. And if I had this building as a church, I'd put this here, and the that there, and the this here, and the that there, and that here, and this here. And he'd walk around, and he did this for quite a while. Quite a while. Wouldn't it be great to have a church here? Wouldn't it be great to have a church here? This is where I'd have my church if I'd have a church here. Well, lo and behold, the day came when Safeway put the building up for sale. In come all these people. They want to buy it up to make mini malls on this whole strip. I got to go down there and look at the property, because it's going to be interesting to find out where and what, Because I got just enough facts to know what the pieces are, but not enough to see the whole picture. But I'm just giving you the pieces that struck my soul. And so the building comes up for sale, and they want $1.2 million for it. And they're trying to bring business into the community, and they want to put a little mini mall and add some more buildings on the properties that go next to it, and this, that, and other thing. And the investors come in, they look it over, and the price is $1.2 million. He comes in and he looks it over, and bottom line, of course, they can't afford no $1.2 million out of their church coffers, but he just keeps walking around and coming back and showing an interest, walking around and coming back and showing an interest, and but it's too high price. But walking around, and all the while he's walking around, inside he's got this, man, it should be good. This is where I want it to be, right here. According to her testimony, at one point they were having a meeting, and some of the people who wanted to buy the building outright, that were negotiating that, all of a sudden dropped out. And there was a meeting of the powers that be, I guess, who own the land or own the property and the building or something. Because I didn't get full details on it, but there was like this little meeting. And somebody in that group meeting spoke up and said, I think this place should be a church or something. That's what I've always felt this place should be, and that's what my vote is for it. And after a little bit of discussion, now remember, this person was not tied to the pastor who had been walking around. After this person made the comment, everybody started buzzing about it, but that'd be a great way to get back to the community. Let's not put another mini mall in this area. Let's put a and they got into this discussion, and the whole tide changed, and they bought that property. And I think she said they paid $500,000 for it, or $600,000. But it was like over half of what the original asking value was for it. And I thought that was interesting. It's just like, that's a great place to have a church over there. Bless God. And he didn't know that he'd really live there someday, but it just struck me as, sometimes we have to be aware of this repeating, continual, prompting, someday, can't put my finger on it, leading. It might be real, it might not be real. It might happen, it might not happen. It might, but just the fact that it was in his heart. And when the circumstance came, he took the chance and yada yada. So then, I guess there's some other properties along this area here, and one of the pieces of property that was tied, one of the buildings that was tied to this chunk of property was a bar. And they tried to buy the bar, they tried to negotiate with the owner of the bar, they tried to serve papers on him, they tried to legally do things to find a way to, well, she said there was something really crooked going on about this whole bar because the ties seemed to be a little odd, and when they tried to serve papers on the guy, he'd all of a sudden be gone, he'd vanish, he'd be on a business trip to who knows where, and they couldn't serve the papers, and they tried and tried and tried to work through the legal system to deal with this guy, and they could never catch him. And one day, according to her testimony, one day, the pastor all of a sudden got this, okay, and he told his wife or where he was with, I can't remember who he was with now, I got to go, I'll be right back. And he drove over to where the bar was, and he laid hands on the walls. And he said, "From this day forth thou shalt wither and dry up and die." And he walked off. Within less than a year, the bar owner came to him and said, I don't understand what's happening to my business. Nobody comes anymore. They're just disappearing. My business has just withered up and died. And quotes the phrase that's the testimony. And so he was willing to relinquish the property, and that building is now their youth center. Their what do you call it, youth conferencing place, you know, for bringing youth together and doing things and whatnot. And I just thought, you know, bit by bit, inch by inch.
Oh my God.
And you know, the thing that struck me was, this is prime tax real estate.
Yeah.
And I said to her, why would the state let you even do that? That's not church territory. She said, oh, that was a different set of battles. But the Lord got it to them. So from out of a little kernel of faith, you know, if I can rewrite for want of a shoe, a horse was lost. Out of a little kernel of faith, a church was born in a Safeway. And out of a Safeway came a bar, and out of the bar came something else. And they now have several buildings on this property, pieces along this strip. They're all there, supposedly. And their congregation, I think she said, is 1,500 people now. You know, and it's just as the Lord leads, not without battles, not without prayer, not without leading, not without, sacrifice, yada, yada, yada. But it's just interesting to me, the step-by-stepness and the little heartbeats inside, I've always thought Safeways would make great church buildings. I've thought that for years, They're just the right dimension to build a church in. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. It's a testimony again, and this time a local testimony. It's always nice to have somebody local, not somebody over across in, somewhere far away that you don't know and you hear it third hand and you wonder if it's true. It was good to just have this local testimony, and I probably didn't do it perfect justice, but the bottom line, our God is an awesome God. And if we just pray, seek, and see where we're supposed to be, and make sure we go where we're supposed to be, and follow through where need be or whatnot. Just thought it was interesting. The Lord did another one, So that's a praise God.
Yeah.
Confirmation on certain prayers. Praise God on seeing somebody else blessed. Yada yada, etc., etc., etc. Second item on my talk. This one I give free of charge, but it's costly. I was sitting at my desk. I was down. I've been having a little bit of a problem with. What do you call it? Dark side perspective for the last few weeks. Just circumstances, work, work, church, work, future, past, present. You know how we go through that. Not knowings, uncertainties. And in the middle of that, I put up, well, another one of my grief statements. Grief statements of, Lord, why are we still so small? Wasn't really a prayer. Wasn't expecting an answer. Just why are we still so small? And for what it's worth, I heard, because you're not ready. Talking to me with application to we. What do you mean we're not ready? You know, like, what else are we doing wrong? And the echo answer that I got back was not what I expected. It wasn't a chastising of this, that, or another thing. What it was a awareness, a concepting that says, you're not ready. If I dropped 1,000 people on you right now, tomorrow, what would you do? How many of them could you teach? How fast could you teach them? How, if I drop 1,000 of them in your lap right now, and an X percentage of them come with demonic problems, how many of them will you end up saying, Lord, why could we not cast them out? If I drop 1,000 on you right now and 50% of them need divine healing immediately, and yes, I know you'd pray, but where's your faith on healing prayers? The issue became not so much, although included, we're not ready, but it became we're not getting ready fast enough. And that brought me to a place that I didn't expect, which was a scripture. And that brings me to an observation, which brings me to a mini message, which is going to last about a minute and a half or 5. It says that we are supposed to have our armor on. And I would dare say, I'm generalizing now to the church, but we are in specific, I would dare say the church spends an awful lot of time on the shield. Shield of faith. And I would say the church spends an awful lot of time on the helmet of salvation. A lot of time. We distribute helmets weekly. We have them come in the door, we give them the altar calls, and we distribute helmets weekly. Would you like to be saved? Would you like a helmet? It'll help you in the battle. It'll help you in the war. Help you survive life. Get you into eternal life. Here, have your helmet. And I would say that we are dressing them from the top down. We are handing out helmets in great quantity. The Word Faith movement came along and started handing out shields in great quantity. The Pentecostal movement in general came along and tried to hand out swords. And because they didn't do a good enough job, God turned around and handed it to the Baptists. And they brought deliverance to the church first. Here, whack a demon, whack a demon, whack a demon. You know, head pops out of the hole, whack a demon. The sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. You know, I mean, we've been handing out the Word in quantity, large quantity, lots of Word, lots of Word. But always the soldiers come into the armory from the point of view of, so what you got for distribution today? Here, have a sword. Oh, thanks. Got 5 on my shelf. Works for me. Oh, here, have some more shield. Here's some shield polish. Here's how you can put logos on your shield. Getting where I'm going here? It's like, okay, we are very proficient at teaching people how to, through counseling, put their bucklers on. Buckler on, buckler off. Buckler on, buckler off. Here's how you do it. Cinch the straps this way, do it that way, put the holes in this way, make sure it's tight. That'll protect you in life. Got that buckler on. We're putting all these armor pieces on. But we're forgetting something really crucial. No. Oh yeah, well we're forgetting that too. We are doing a little bit of that. But what we're forgetting is what I just got softly, inner manly touched on. You're not ready. Ready. Not ready. What do you mean I'm not ready? You've got no shoes. You can have the best shield in the world. And you start traipsing across the demonic desert, and you're going to fry your feet if you're not prepped. If you don't know what you believe, why you believe what you believe, if you don't know how to pray on the run, not sitting down, you're not ready. I love a statement from my brother, who's in the hospital right now, who just had brain surgery. And I'm leaving his name off the tape for privacy's sake for the moment, but those who know. All recovered, surgery went well, and the nurses said, okay, now we need to see how your body recovers and see if you're getting any strength. Make sure you're functioning correctly, your brain and body are talking to each other fine, and so forth. And so that's what we're going to be testing for today. And as he put it, he said, and I thought, okay, cool. So I laid in bed and stayed there. And eventually the nurse came along and said, what are you doing? Well, you told me that I have to see how my body's doing, and so I'm staying here and monitoring to see how my body's doing. No, the intent was get out of bed and walk around. And I started cracking up inside because I thought, man, if that isn't the church, if that isn't, prepare. I am preparing. I'm sitting in my pew. I'm ready. I come to church every Sunday. I'm ready. I'm awake. I'm not a virgin that's asleep. I'm faithful.
Right.
Now, narrowing this thing down a little bit, what shoes are you supposed to be wearing? How many hours are you supposed to be praying? How many hours are you supposed to be reading? How many hours are you supposed to be doing? What did God tell you was your preparation?
Yeah.
Now, you thought it was just Him telling you to do things that you're having trouble struggling with. And it hit me really, not super hard, but it hit me, down in here. I can have the best faith, the strongest Word of God, the good solid helmet of salvation on. I could have my breastplate of righteousness or love, depending on which verse you want. I mean, I'm full of love. Now, if you look at the Christian battlefield right now, how many soldiers are dead on the ground because they got their feet cut off? How many of us are hurting our spiritual walk because we're not doing the spiritual talk? That was our readiness. Now, what's really interesting is when we first bring a Christian into the gospel, what do we tell them? Get ready. Played songs this morning. Get ready. Prepare. Be aware. Jesus is returning. Study the Word. Preach. Pray. Push. And about third year, it's work. We've matured now, right? We should be focusing on other things. I'm being a little humorous about this, but really it's not a really humorous matter. I know how many hours a day I'm supposed to be in prayer at the moment, and how many hours a day I'm supposed to be in the Word at the moment, and I know what I'm supposed to be doing as far as how many hours a day I'm supposed to be in music at the moment, and I guarantee you that I'm in the same shape as the rest of the church. I'm still a Christian. I'm still alive. I wear my tunic well. I wear my holy white robe well. My holy white robe well. You know what I'm saying? I know where the holy place is. I go to the holies. I am, to a certain degree, armored up and dressed. Some people don't have shields of faith. All right, so we got to supply them. Some people don't have swords. They don't know the Word at all. We got to supply them. We are the armor bearers. We're the ones carrying Christ's armor to the nations. We're the ones distributing it. And we're walking barefoot. Well, that's a problem. So, you don't get a faith moment today. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you another rag to polish your shield. As of today, you are cut off at the faith moment level. However, I will issue knee pads to anybody who wants them.
Amen.
There is a protection device for these things too. I was struck by that in a matter of seconds. And it's been growing all through yesterday and through these songs, and it was like, okay, church, we got a point here, you know. I went to a Christian bookstore yesterday, and I saw 4 wonderful books. They were wonderful books. They were Hebrew lexicon books that took the entire Old Testament, and you open it up, and there's the Hebrew, there's its form, there's its grammatical form, and there's its definition for the major words in key verses. 4 volumes, $29.95 a piece, and my heart went, ah. And then my head went, yeah, can you even still read this? Been in the New Testament so long, can you even read this? But everything inside me went, oh, what a tool! What a tool! And then I thought, I'm just going to leave it there. Because I got tools. Yeah, all of a sudden it hits, doesn't it? Oh, I already have the leather to make the shoes. I also have plenty of soles to work on. I have plenty of... I can make my shoes. I can go buy a Bible program, update the one I've got, and get that same information. It's not the book that's the problem. It's not that somebody out there didn't make a book that's the problem. Didn't make a book that's the problem. It's that we all are slumbering and sleeping. We're all dozing. We don't mean to. That's the catch. We don't mean to. Our hearts are not to do so. Our Christianity is not predicated on some of this. Do you know you can get to heaven by never ministering another day in your life? You could. Because you're saved by grace, not of works, lest any man should boast. And you could come in the doors of heaven by the hair on your chinny chin chin and be a winner. You could. But is that the issue anymore? Every man's works, whether they be wood, hay, stubble, gold, gem, jewels, will be tested and tried. And sometimes that testing and trying starts right in the heart when God says, you know, how about this? I've come to the conclusion that God is not afraid of materialism. He's not afraid of prospering his people, like some Christians believe, you know. He's not afraid of giving gifts to men, powerful gifts of prophecy and this, that, and another thing, power gifts. He's not afraid of giving that stuff out, like, you know, like he has to hold it all back going, oh, I might destroy my sons if I give them good things. That's not the problem. He can give all that. He'll give it to any novice who's got enough guts to stand up to the throne and ask for it. Right? But there comes a place where the son must be able to go into the marketplace, as it were. The handmaiden must be able to know what to do. The sons and daughters have to know how to take care of the vineyard. And that's all prep stuff. I'm continually amazed when I go to movies. We like going to these inspirational underdog movies, you know, whether it's underdog hockey or underdog basketball or underdog, you know. My wife and I like going to movies where the underdogs, you know, teams come together and win. And the one thing that is always in those movies that we always forget in Christianity is the prep time. The prep time. How are you ever going to get to tongues and interpretation of tongues in public forum if you're not 100% comfortable with tongues? How are you ever going to get to the place where you can prophesy easily, openly, and freely in front of people when you can't get a prophecy from God that you can count on for yourself, knowing that really did happen exactly the way God told me? You know what I'm saying? How can you go lay hands on people and pray for them if you haven't spent the prep time in the closet to watch things happen from the closet? And I'm not speaking specifically, but I'm just saying, as a church, that's where we're at. And in specific, you can apply it where it fits. I know where I have to apply it. We're not ready. However, we can be ready. And God's got 2 choices. And my wife pointed one of them out yesterday. Painful. God could just do it upon us even though we're not ready for it. Fine, you're not ready. Here, have 1,000 souls. Now struggle. Could. He'd just say, okay, I've waited 15 years for you guys, or 18 years, or 12 years, or 2 years, depending on what church he's talking about. And I can't wait anymore. Sink or swim. I'm giving you my Spirit. Sink or swim. And for those of you who are going to take those jewels and go away with it, even after it collapses and falls, and the whole movement collapses and dies, and the whole church disappears, or the whole movement disappears, or the whole city of Zion disappears, the ones I'm after are the ones who will grab that stuff, hang on to it, hold on to it, and make it in the next move. I'm interested in the Joshua, the Calebs, and the next guys. But I can't sit here generation after generation after generation and just wait. So he keeps shocking us. And for others, he doesn't shock them at all. They're ready for him. So my encouraging word, if it's encouraging, get going. There's a song on this CD that I've been playing that I haven't played for you guys. See, the CD that I've been listening to drive a few points into my head. There's a Great Awakening coming. Right, we played that one. There's another one that's called We Must Go that follows right behind it. Okay, that's cool. But the fourth one says, they got a real cute title. It calls Work the Works. And they spell it W-O-R-X. Work the Works. Work the Works. We got things to work. Here a little, there a little. Okay, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. Get your shoes ready. God is not going to let us die just because we don't have our shoes right. Preparation, preparing for war. I might add one more thing. Preparation is everything from making sure you have shoes, so you know how to cinch things up and make sure you can walk on bad ground, to knowing how to wage war on your feet. Boxers. I found it interesting watching that boxing movie that came out with Clint Eastwood not too long ago. Footwork. I'm amazed. I'm not a person who likes boxing, wrestling, or any of that. I hate seeing mankind pulverize mankind. But I have to admit, it's amazing. All that bouncing around, fancy footwork, sting like a butterfly, or is it fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The feet going toot, 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 toot. I never realized it was that much fancy footwork. I was at Medieval Nights in California 2 weeks ago, which is a restaurant, and they had horse shows and stuff. And one of the things they did is they had a master horseman take horses through their paces. And different kinds of steps that these horses can do, cross-legged and straight out steps. I didn't know a horse could step straight out with his front limbs. I always thought they had to bend their limbs. They don't. They can go straight out, put their hooves straight down. And they explained why they had to do those moves in war. Because when there's dead bodies on the ground, the horse has to go over it. And so the horse has to know how to stretch his foot out and pull his body over the carcass. So they teach them a walk called the walk, or whatever, a human walk. And then they have other walks where they go sideways so that they know how to get through the lines. And they got other walks that they can do, and they can do backups. And footwork. So preparation of the gospel, the armor on your feet, isn't just to protect your feet. It's you got to know your footwork too. And so that kind of all brewed in me, and I don't know where to go with it. I've spent so many years focusing on shield and and the Baptist, as I use a Baptist as my pointing post because I was a Baptist. Baptists hand out lots of helmets, and Pentecostals hand out lots of swords, and we need to hand out more prep, more get ready, stay on your knees, pray it through till you get there. If you don't know your verses, get to know your verses. If you don't know why you know your verses, know your verses. Ask your questions. So that's number 2. Number 3. You know how every year, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've gotten 2 words for the next year for us? Discipline and determination was this year, as you recall, that we would have to be working on that issue. Last year, if I can remember now, I had it earlier. Before that was wisdom and strength. And what was the other one?
Prosperity last year.
Prosperity was the one that came from Dale for 2001.
2002.
2 and 3, right. And we each year have both been partly successful and partly not successful in carrying out our next phase. Right? And that's okay, because the Lord's trying, not okay, but it's okay in the sense that the Lord is trying to move us. Right? Well, He certainly tries to move me, and it's hard sometimes. Well, I was sitting at my desk right after I got the "You're not ready" part. I got the 2006 part. And I want you to be praying about it, because I haven't a clue how to do this. And it applies to you too. So, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready? You want to know what 2006 is about?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Hey, it's about 2 words. And those 2 words have 2 subwords. The 2 words for 2006 are going to be prophecy. Don't know. I've been preaching messages for several years that are all practicals. And I'm not saying I won't be preaching some practicals. But I'm feeling inside like God wants to heat more prophecy issues up. And not just for us. Prophecy's not dead yet. The world's trying to kill it by confusion. The church is trying to kill it by doctrinal confusion. God is not done with it yet. And we have to prepare. There's a whole lot more prophetic prophet stuff coming. And we need to be praying for one another that we be a prophetic, truly prophetic people. Not a wannabe prophetic people.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The second word. The second word is. The second word is power. It's in line with the messages I've been getting on and off all through the end of this last 4 months, wherein I have seen the painful truth, right? The painful truth? Wouldn't we call that the painful truth? That the church does not acknowledge, does not accept the fact that it is operating powerless. And we have an obligation to petition the Lord and make sure that we summon Him in greater quantity for greater power. So, the second word is power. Now, the 2 subset words that go with it. The prophecy one is tied to our title, presence. It is an aspect of His presence that we do not have enough of. Not because He hasn't wanted to give it, but because we keep confusing it and allowing the enemy to confuse things when it starts to happen. So we need to pray for precise prophecies, clear visions, dreams, revelations, understandings, word of knowledge, word of wisdom, yada yada. Because the church is getting static, interference. And because of that, we keep looking for those who would be the voices who we could trust 100%, and we're finding we can only trust them 50%. And then we look at our own voices and we wonder if we can trust us 25%. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, after all, if that person's only trustworthy 50%, then maybe I'm only trustworthy 25% of what I'm getting. And, you know, and then, of course, we always have friends, relatives, and coworkers who are more than glad to make it painfully aware that to them, they only trust it 5%. So we're in a struggle of faith on the subject of prophecy before we even get off the ground. I don't know what God's going to do with all that yet, but I'm just giving it to you as prophecy, presence. It's an aspect of his presence. And power comes with its subset word, the theme of 2006 partially. Ready?
Yep.
War!
Oh boy.
It's in your bulletin. That's a preemptive bulletin announcement. War! That's why I wrote the bulletin thing. War! War, war, I want war! War. Well,
Our soldiers get over it.
I don't know why I keep circling back around that, because I certainly at times don't feel like a soldier. But I'm just giving you little snippets I've been getting in my inner man while I'm in my outer man, bored out of my mind, sitting at a job, doing a job, J-O-B, wondering where the world goes. And it was like, war. There's going to be more on that subject coming. I don't understand. I am not supposed to come off that button. Maybe we're going to start having war moments instead of faith moments. I don't know. Maybe we're going to start having, I don't know what we're going to have again. It's not 2006 yet. I'm not there, okay? But I am telling you that war is going to become a theme. And it should be a theme because, in case you haven't noticed, in the natural world, we're at war. The spiritual world is heating up just as much. I believe that the church is trying to avoid the war. I do. Now, here's an interesting one that I got Friday night. I was sitting at the dinner table with you. I needed to go talk to my angel for a minute. And while I was there, for those of you who know what that means, while I was there, I had a thought come in. I wrote it down, and so it's at germinating seed level, but I think it's right. I don't know what it means, what the implications of it are. But the statement was, if you declare war, you will be busy. Well, Lord, how comes we're not growing? I don't know, how many things have you assaulted lately? And I don't mean people. War, just as an observation, produces new economies,
Yes, it does.
changes societal structure, alters perception, unifies man. You know what I'm saying? Its very function and going against an adversary produces unity, new movements, changes on the landscape. Maybe we should find out which buildings to lay hands on. For a while there, I ran into some brothers who were marching around Highway 99. They took it upon themselves to do nothing but pray. Walk up and down the streets on Highway 99 on the districts that were very, very bad. Now that area has churches in it, fresh new businesses in it, and those other businesses are all gone. They just dried up and went away. There are people who teach taking your cities for God, spiritual warfare at the highest level, yada yada. And they seem to be getting a certain amount of results. I hadn't really thought about it. They're nice testimonies, that's cool, praise God, alright, fire it up. If we're reluctant to go to war because we've been fed peacenik ideas, thinking that if we just ignore the war, the terrorists will go away, those demonic voices will just shut up eventually because we're not bothering them. I mean, if you don't stick into the hornet's nest, you can't possibly be stung by hornets, right? Don't you know that? If you hadn't declared war, they wouldn't be attacking us, right? And that's the speech of the day. Yeah, that's the natural man echoing what the spiritual man also is echoing. I think the Lord is trying to say, prepare. Prepare for what? War. Invisible war. invisible push and shove. Lord, Lord, why could we not cast them out? O ye of little preparation. This kind cometh not out except in preparation.
Yeah.
I know, it's a modified verse, but the point's there. So, don't like it, don't like it, don't like it, but like it, but don't like it. Go ask the Lord what your aspect is. If you already know, prepare. I don't know what I'm going to be preaching, teaching, or doing in 2006, but now I've got 2 words for 2006, so I guess we're going to keep going. That's at least the tone, tenor, and flavor. And who it belongs to, I don't know. You know, I don't know what bodies are supposed to be here. God brings people in to prep them according to their needs. I did think about one thing, though. I got this kind of counterverse verse. Yeah, but Jesus was the Prince of Peace. That was a cute little counter in my head. It came with an immediate reply, of course. Yeah, and how did he do that? By waging war. Walks into the middle of town and starts throwing all the sickness demons out and wiping out the bad guys. And Paul comes to town and he shuts off the gal with prophecy of demonic prophecy and walks into the synagogues and splits them down the middle. And yeah, that's the Prince of Peace.
Do not think that I have come to bring peace.
Exactly the right verse. But I've come to bring a sword, to divide asunder. We're not trying to harm anybody. We're not here to beat people over the head with the Bible. We're here to beat the devil over the head with it. And if he doesn't like the tune, he can leave the people we're after. Right?
Yes.
Right. So, realize that you are following the Prince of Peace while you wage war. Eventually, all the enemies will be put under his feet. Eventually, he will hand over the entire kingdom to the Father. But right now, we can't stick our head in the sands and pretend we're ostriches. Because the devil knows we're not. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in heaven as it is on earth. Oops, I said that backward.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Yeah, that's exactly what we want to pray. I hope heaven's like down here, peaceful and no war. And no, the truth of the matter is, in order for thy kingdom to come and thy will to be done on earth as it is in heaven, that means we have to overthrow the usurper who's running earth in opposition to heaven.
That's right.
I never saw that before in that way. So now I understand why the "and lead us not into temptation but deliver us from the evil one" comes in right shortly thereafter in that model prayer. Because the only way to bring in the kingdom is to start a war. The angels show up, the demons fight back. The Spirit of God shows up, man fights back. And a war is on. And we started it. Whether we admit it or not, we started it. Go ahead, stand in the middle of the South Center Mall and call in the presence of God and see what happens. Just stand there in the middle of the mall, put your hands up, and start saying, "Lord, I summon your presence here into the mall."
Wow.
And just how long do you think that'll last? And you say, "I wasn't attacking anybody, I was doing a standing in the middle of the mall and praying." I guarantee you, you will find out very quickly who owns that mall. Or they will find out very quickly who's gonna own it. Only 2 choices. So that was kind of a, okay, so if we declare war, we will be busy. We want a new revival? We want another revival aspect? Prayer, prophecy, power, presence, all the P's that we're putting up on our webpage. Going to Prince of Peace. Okay, number 4. How am I doing on time? I'm doing okay. Number 4. I'm going to give this one to you guys. Just, you can, if it applies to you, use it. If not, it's mine. But I was sitting at my desk, and I've already partly shared this with you, but I feel it's of benefit to everybody, so I'm going to share it again. I was sitting at my desk, I was depressed, I was down, the shadows of darkness were roaming around. You failed, you're too old now, you know. You're disobedient, you shoulda, you coulda, if you'd only. Look down the tunnel of the future, it goes nowhere, you've built nothing that lasts. I have darkness that comes after me. In the middle of all of that, pain, deep, grieving pain. My chest hurt so bad. I said to myself, oh, I hurt, this hurts. Lord, I said, this hurts. God, this hurts. My chest hurts, my head hurts, my chest hurts, my heart hurts, my stomach hurts. I'm running at 10,000 megahertz. I think I'm depressed, God. Am I depressed? And I get this quiet little reply of, partly, but a lot of it's just grief. Grief. And I pause to meditate on that, and all of a sudden it hits me. That's what it is. It's not all depression. It's not all darkness. It's not because of the voices. There's spiritual grief in me, and it is so strong and so potent that I just want to throw up. And I'm not kidding. I sometimes feel like I want to throw up. It gets so strong that I feel like I want to throw up. I feel like I want to start crying and never stop. I feel like I want to just go. Well, people would say, oh no, that's depression. You better get down to the shrink and get a pill. But as soon as I put a label on it and saw what the pain and grief was, spiritual grief, we don't understand it. To us, it acts like depression, because that's the only label we have for it. That grief in me was so strong. I want to see God move. Where is He? I don't want to see another brother go into the hospital. I don't want to see another church die. I don't want to see another revival go away. I don't want to see another. I want to see God do this again.
Yes.
And then I listen to a song like this CD that I've been playing. There's a great awakening coming. And everything inside me hurts. And I'm depressed. Where is it? That's not depression, it's grief. It's the kind of cry that Gideon had behind the threshing field. Why are God's people under bondage? This isn't right. That's grief. That's spiritual grief. You hear somebody say, if it be the Lord's will, and everything inside you goes, "Arr!" That's spiritual grief. Now, when we have grief, it manifests one of two ways, usually. We either get angry, or we get sad. You know, we either want to shred something, or we sit down and bawl. That's spiritual grief. You're looking at the church, and I'm preaching several messages in a row on powerless. Then I look in the mirror and go, am I any different than my brethren? We all have a measure of. A measure's not enough. And it doesn't match the prophecy blueprint, and it doesn't match God's heart and desire, and it doesn't match what the church should be, and it doesn't match, we do not have the perfect man out here, come on. And you shall have apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers until you come into a perfect man. Well, obviously we still need apostles, prophets, pastors, and teachers and all that, because we haven't reached a perfect man. And so I grieve. I grieve. We need more prophecy. We need more spirit. We need more. And I'm talking, point the fingers right here, take and apply what you want. But that, you need to differentiate in your soul. You need to discern the difference between your griefs. Some of your grief is because life didn't go the way you thought it would. Some of your grief is because life threw curves. You know, it stabbed you in the back, changed your circumstances, altered your existence. Some of it is you were doing really good and somebody took it away from you. Some of it is you messed up. And I realized, even the parts I messed up. Well, what's the point of looking at it? I keep going back and looking at it, reanalyzing old chess games. There's a whole lot more chess games to play. There's a whole lot more moves to make. We got a whole future yet to go. We do. Take the spiritual grief and turn it into prayer, turn it into petition, turn it into summoning, turn it into, what's the word I'm looking for, pray without ceasing. I need to take some of my spiritual grief and switch it. What was real interesting to me was as soon as I correctly labeled the parts that were spiritual grief from the parts that were circumstantial to the parts that were really my fault, split in 3 lines, I felt much better. Just like that. I went, that one I can take care of because that's spiritual business and I know how to take care of it. That one I have no control over at all. That is the way the world works. I just need God to guide me through these waters. That part over there, I got to go prepare. Preparation time. Separate it out, and the depression dropped for me 50%. Just like that. If it's a benefit to you, take it and use it. Take it and use it. I think I'm going to pause the recording and play the song. The song is called Waging War, and by the 65 dBAs. Or 65 dBA, I don't know how you say it. And then I'm going to come back and I'm just going to read scriptures, and I'll tell you the scriptures before I click off, just so that anybody wants to go read them, they can afterwards. I'm going to read Luke chapter 4, verses 17 to 21, Revelation 4, 1 to 11, Revelation 1, 1 to 3, and Revelation 19, 11 through 16. And that'll be the end of our talk, is me just reading those. I'm not really going to comment, I just want them in your mind. And to go along with the music that we heard at the beginning of the service, and a couple in the middle even in the worship, and this whole issue of where we're heading. As an interlude, I'm going to play the song.